Hi, I'm Emily. Welcome to another Cooking Planet video. I today want to talk to you about how to make your kitchen dollars go a little bit further. If you've been following along with Cooking Planet, especially on our blog, you've heard us talk a lot about how to make your money go further, especially when you're trying to cook a lot at home and with fresh ingredients. And so we're big proponents for buying what you need and then using what you buy. And we can have the best intentions, I get it, but you go to the store, you need a tablespoon of cilantro for a recipe and you buy a whole bunch like this, or parsley, or chives, for example. So you end up having a lot of these ingredients left over. And the last thing you want to do is a week later walk over to the trash and dump them in the trash can, right? Because that may as well just be dollar bills that you're throwing away. So here's a couple tips that I have for you to make these herbs last a little bit longer and also come up with some easy dinner solutions in the process that I think you're really going to enjoy. And they're really easy, so that's great too, right? So my first and most favorite suggestion for putting fresh herbs to good use before they go bad is to make a compound butter. And that basically just means that it's a butter that has been mixed with other flavor ingredients, so you get a flavorful butter. And really the great thing about this is that you can be as creative as you want. In this case, you can have a ton of different herbs, whether it's fresh thyme, some chive, oregano would be great, cilantro would be great. We actually have a couple recipes on the website, cookingplanet.com, with herbed butter recipes already there. So you can follow along with something specific, or you can just kind of freestyle it and come up with some really great combinations. So first of all, have a softened stick of butter, softened at room temperature so that it's easy to stir. And then pick whichever combination of herbs you want. Now, if you have more than one kind or multiple kinds of herbs, feel free to throw in multiple types, and they're all really just going to complement each other. Consider things like garlic and shallot, especially if you have some laying around. Those are a great way to add another layer of flavor. Salt and pepper, of course, pretty much season everything right with salt and pepper. Really important to think about too is an acid of some kind. So maybe fresh lemon juice or fresh orange juice, maybe even some zest from that fruit itself. Or something more simple that you hopefully have on hand in your refrigerator in your cupboard is just some vinegar. Vinegar and acids like lemon juice, lime juice, they not only will cut the fattiness of the butter itself and kind of balance that out, but they'll also make all the other flavors pop. Acid just brings flavors alive, really. So consider that maybe 2 teaspoons or so of some sort of acid. And then you can get really creative with some of your dried spices as well. A little bit of cayenne would be great for adding a little bit of heat, or some Cajun seasoning just for a little kick. So you can really pull out things from your pantry to complement this herb butter. Once you mix it all up, you're going to dump it into a piece of parchment paper and then twist the ends. This is one that I've already made. And kind of roll it up like a Tootsie Roll. And then you want to just seal it in a freezer-safe plastic baggie. Get all the air out of there and seal it really tight. And then write the date on it. I always like to write what it is and the date because inevitably in a month I'm like, what's this? So anyway, labels are good too. The next idea is really similar to that, except instead of butter, you're going to kind of make an olive oil base. And this is going to be a puree that you make in the food processor. Think about this in terms of like a pesto or a chimichurri. And instead of the butter, you're going to be using olive oil. So you can chop up all kinds of things here, and some cilantro in there already, some garlic again. And then think about this the same way. An acid is really great, either a vinegar or a lemon juice. But if you're thinking about a pesto, for example, they also include Parmesan cheese and also pine nuts. So if you don't have pine nuts, I love walnuts, for example, or even like a blanched almond. That way you still get that kind of nutty texture and flavor, but you don't have to stick to all the rules all the time, right? Once you start drizzling in the olive oil with the motor running, you'll get kind of a nice liquidy sauce, and you can transfer this into ice cube trays. If you're making a really big batch, transfer it into ice cube trays and freeze it in smaller portions. That way you can defrost only what you need when the time comes. If you're not making a big batch, just throw it into one baggie and then you can defrost it all at once. And this is similar. You can use this on things like, again, on pasta. You can also use it as a finishing sauce on like a flank steak or chicken or fish. Actually, a chimichurri sauce is a lot of cilantro and parsley, sometimes some crushed red pepper for heat. And Trip actually shared a recipe on Cooking Planet recently with a jalapeno chimichurri, and that was awesome. You just throw in a jalapeno and you get this great layer of peppery, a bit of spicy flavor to it. So again, that's just an example of how you can really get creative with it. And last but not least, is herb oils. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But it's an herb oil. And the same thing with an herb oil, you're going to basically infuse the oil like you would, like seeping it. And this is really great for things that are a little bit more resilient, such as branched herbs like thyme or rosemary. And what you'd want to do with those is in your pot of maybe a cup to 2 cups of olive oil, depending on how much you're going to really use this. If you're going to use it often, go for the full 2 cups. But you kind of want to break up some of the branches, or you can run your knife through them, just to kind of release some of those aromatics. And throw that in the pot. Think about slicing up some garlic. And again, I really like the chili flake. That's going to add a little bit of a peppery bite to it. You're going to put this over a very low heat on the stove and bring it up to a very, again, low heat. You do not want to burn the oil, so I'm very much emphasizing low heat here. And then just kind of let it steep about 5 to 10 minutes in that warm oil. Then remove it from the stove and let it cool to room temperature, but leave everything in the pot. And as it cools to room temperature, it'll just steep further. And once it's all room temperature, pour it into like a heat-proof or glass sealable jar, like a glass mason jar, or if you have an olive oil container. And that's really great. You can use that for a couple things like making a salad dressing, or you could put it in a bowl and dip crusty bread in it, which I love to do. Bread and olive oil is one of my favorite things. And you can also use it over pasta or drizzle it over a piece of fish or chicken before you roast it in the oven. So all of these 3 things, from the herb butter to the puree to the infused oil, are great ways to put your herbs to good use when they are fresh, before they've gone bad, but then store them so that they're useful for you for months to come.